Welcome to the 76 Capital Leadership Series. My name is Wayne Kimmel, and I'm your host and managing partner of 76 Capital, the sports tech venture capital fund. On this show, I interview top sports entrepreneurs, athletes, and executives who are truly shaping and many times changing the overall sports industry. I want to give a quick shout out before we get started to my producer back at the station, Ty, and also got to give a shout out to Vince for all the great work he does on the video side. They're the guys who really, truly make it happen. You can follow me on Twitter at Wayne Kimmel, and definitely follow 76 Capital at 76 Capital across not only Twitter, but all social media outlets out there, including our podcast and our YouTube channel as well. And you know, if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this show, or you're building a company and you want to do the next thing in sports tech and esports and media and anything across the sports industry, please reach out and talk to us. We would love to talk to you. So let's get to it. We have a really special guest today, someone that I've been waiting to bring on the show, someone that we get a chance to work with closely. His name is Len Perna. Len is the chairman and CEO of TurnkeyZRG. He is also an alliance partner via he and his company at our 76 Capital Sports Advisory business. And we're just really excited to have Len on our show. So Len, welcome to our 76 Capital Leadership Series.
Wayne, you're the best. Thank you. Really pleasure to be here. Honored to be here. Given everybody else that you've had on this show, truly honored to be a part of it.
Well, we're super excited to have you on the show. And I think you know every single person that we've had on the show and probably everyone we're going to have in the future because you know everybody in sports. And that's why we're excited to have you on the show. I got to ask you, Len, over the years, has there been a certain search or a certain person that you've just really loved working with? You could share with us, a great story around that.
We've been really, really fortunate to work with owners of a lot of teams, billionaire owners who have made their money in some other place and they've come into sports and, just had the opportunity to work with them. So I'll mention a couple of those names, but then also we've had the opportunity to work with, Hall of Fame athletes that have become owners of teams or drivers of businesses. So I'll start there. I had an opportunity to work with Peyton Manning. He was the head of the search committee when we went and looked for a new athletic director at Tennessee. And honestly, Peyton was the best person in the room. He took copious notes, asked really great questions. And, we're surrounded in a boardroom with all these business people, donors of University of Tennessee and everything else. And Peyton's the only one taking notes in the room. So he was right on top of it. Really a pleasure to work with him. Had a chance to work with Derek Jeter at the Marlins. Derek is a part owner of the team. We did a search with them, and it was just an honor to work with the captain and just a class act all the way around. Mario Lemieux, I was part of a team that worked with Mario to get the new arena built for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and sitting at a game.
I gotta stop you, Len. You're the first person to mention Mario Lemieux, and by the way, this hockey puck that's sitting behind me right here, this is signed by Mario.
He's such a class act. He's coming up to me asking me if he can get me a drink in the suite. I'm like, Mario, you sit down, relax. Let me get you a drink. He is just a class act. So we work with people like that, and it's great, and they're classy. Just think about, we work with Steve Ross, who's the chairman of related companies, but also the owner of the Miami Dolphins and all of those properties down in Miami. They have a Formula One race now. They have the Miami Open. Steve Ross is absolutely fantastic to work with. We launched Rise, which is his foundation, which is at the intersection of racial justice and sports. And, the board of directors for Rise is all the commissioners of the leagues, all the biggest sponsors. And, I was asked to help launch that and help Steve get that off the ground. We did all that work pro bono with Steve to launch Rise. So, we work with people like Steve Ross, David Tepper, who, is one of the top hedge fund, managers in the world, who owns the Carolina Panthers and now Tepper Sports and Entertainment. We put together all the staffing for that. We can go on and on and on. Right now we're working with John Sherman, who just bought the Kansas City Royals. And it's one of the nicest people you ever want to meet. We've worked with the Will family. We can go on and give you 100 examples of, very wealthy people that are doing good things. They're using sports teams to build out communities and to push gender advancement, race advancement, working to help people in those marketplaces. So I mentioned the Mara family, the Tish family. So we do get to work with really great people. It's why I've got the best job in sports, bar none. And I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to have a career like I've had.
First of all, congratulations on your deal that you did with ZRG. Now it's TurnkeyZRG. You're the chairman and CEO. Why don't you share a little bit about with our audience here of what you did and why you did this deal with ZRG?
Well, I mean, just a little bit of background, started Turnkey Search 25 years ago, literally with a cell phone, and building up an executive search practice, talent recruiting and things like that all across sports, mostly on the business side, but we also do coaches, we do ADs, we do GMs, we do all sorts of stuff that's really cool, and built up a business over 25 years. But didn't really have the capital to keep it growing. And you get to a point when you're an owner and when you're an entrepreneur where you need rocket fuel to take it to the next level. And I really felt like, I needed that now. Turns out it's been so good with ZRG, I should have done it 10 years ago. That's the learning is, don't be so into, controlling your own thing. Bring in partners that can help you, and ZRG has been absolutely fantastic. I mean, the way the deal worked out, it's really like a merger. I took my company and I took my equity and I put it inside a larger search firm. ZRG is the 8th largest search firm in the world, and it's been absolutely gangbusters for our business and for their business. Our business will double this year, and I couldn't have done it without ZRG. They've given us capital, resources, also technology, things that we didn't have as a small boutique search firm. And it's enabled us to be way more competitive, win more searches, win more often, do a better job on searches. So A+ to ZRG, and it's been a winner.
That's really great to hear. And one of the big things that we do on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, and I think a lot of our audience loves to hear the backstory. How did Len Perna become, the guy that everyone wants to go to if you need to find someone in the sports industry? So I'd love to hear your background, where you grew up, and how you got to where you are today.
I mean, I grew up, just playing every sport there was. I played a lot of sports, loved sports, played them all. And I guess my one claim to fame, I went to the University of Michigan, and they have I wasn't a varsity athlete. I wasn't good enough.
I thought you were going to say you were the quarterback, Len.
I wish I would have been. I actually back then thought I should have been. And that'll give you a window into what I think of myself. I'm very competitive, but I wasn't big enough, fast enough, strong enough. So at the University of Michigan, I think they have like 30 intramural sports. And so sophomore year, I decided to do them all. And so I actually did all 30 intramural sports, all the normal things, football, baseball, everything else. But, water polo, I had never done water polo. I had never done wrestling before. I played every sport there was, even the ones I didn't know how to do. And, just for anybody out there that wants to try such a thing, the two toughest ones were really wrestling and water polo. Like I almost drowned. I almost killed myself doing those two. I'm just a sports nut. And so that's how I really got into sports. Coming out of law school, I went to Michigan Law School also. I got a job working for the law firm that handled ESPN. So every day of my professional career has been in sports. I've never had a day outside of sports. I was an attorney for ESPN, early days of ESPN, where they weren't even on 24 hours a day. This is one channel, 2 hours a day back in the 80s. And we're helping them find programming. And so I'm doing programming deals and looking for intellectual property and content for ESPN, very early days. And just, after that, I wound up getting a call back in Michigan from the family, the Ilitch family, which owned at the time the Detroit Red Wings. Went to work there literally as an intern. I took a step back from being a lawyer and just got on the phones. I sold tickets. And I got some quick promotions. Then we bought the Tigers. Then we redid the Fox Theater. Then we bought a lot of real estate. And before you knew it, I was running the business operations of a very large sports and entertainment conglomerate, Ilitch Holdings. And I'd only been there about 2 years when they gave me that job. So I was just in the right place at the right time. I got a lot of luck. I worked hard, yeah, but I had a lot of good fortune and people took care of me. The Ilitches were absolutely great to me. And then I wound up going down to Dallas and working for Tom Hicks Sports and Entertainment. We owned the Texas Rangers, the Dallas Stars, a rodeo, and a lot of other assets. And we were building out a new arena in downtown Dallas, and I led that project there. So I had a lot of hands-on experience early in life, got a lot of breaks, and then I started Turnkey and been doing that for the last 26 years.
Well, Len, it's such an interesting story. I mean, going from operating some of the top professional sports teams in the country. What was the thing that kind of made you start to start Turnkey? Was it the fact that did you realize how important people were to the success of the business and you were like, wow, I want to build a company around that, or was it something else?
I mean, really, it's a great question, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I actually started 2 companies on the exact same day. I started a company, Turnkey Search, which we still have going, and the same day I started Turnkey Intelligence, which was all about data and analytics and research and surveying people, because the philosophy, at least that I had at that point, and this is going all the way back into the mid-90s, was in order to succeed in sports, you needed to have the right people in the right jobs, and that was Turnkey Search. And then you needed to have the right data and information in order to act on it. And if you put those 2 things together and you provided those as a service in the industry, you could be successful. I did get an exit. So I ran Turnkey Intelligence and grew it and got an exit. In 2018, we sold to Ilitch Holdings. And so exited that business. I'm not involved in that anymore. They're still going as Ilitch Holdings and doing great. And so I was lucky to get a really great exit out of that. And then I'll just continue to do search, until I die, pretty much, because I love it.
Well, let's talk about search and what it really means. I mean, a lot of people, hear executive search. You think about, kind of that from a corporate perspective, but the fact that it's so much part of the overall sports industry, and you have placed some of the most important people across the whole sports industry over the last several decades. So talk about that and its involvement in the sports industry.
Well, when I run into people at parties, they marvel at how easy my job is and, how fun it seems. And it is fun, but it's not easy. It's actually pretty hard, even to fill these great jobs, like just give you an example, the Mara and Tisch family that own the New York Giants football club, hire us to go find somebody to run their business operations. And we worked on that search, year before last, and there's literally thousands of people that want that job, thousands of incoming applicants and everything else. But the reality is, finding the right person that can work inside a family business, because the Giants are still family owned, and then be able to work within, the parameters of the deals in place for their stadium, which we were involved in, the deals in place, obviously, with the league, their deals in place with their media outlets and their existing marketing partners. So it's a built environment. Finding somebody to take that forward and grow the business without disrupting it too much is actually more challenging than it might appear. And there's not a ton of people that have the exact right skills and attributes to do that. And we found a great person to do that job. So when we do jobs like that, it seems like it should be easy. Hey, who wouldn't want this job? But finding the exact right people to work with ownership, work with the league, work with marketing partners and everybody else is more challenging than it seems.
Well, we're really excited to have Len Perna, the chairman and CEO of TurnkeyZRG, as our guest on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And Len, I want to go a little deeper into what you were just talking about, and how you find a candidate for a position. I mean, as you said, quite frankly, every kid who grows up, they want to work in sports, so they just they find TurnkeyZRG, they send them your resume, and they figure they're going to get a job with a team. It's not that easy, right? But so you kind of figure it out. Like, what are those types of traits and qualities and things that you look for when you're helping a client of yours pick a really important executive for their team?
The process is interesting because we start by really paying attention to what we could put down on a piece of paper. So we write a position description, and that really becomes the sacred document of any search. But a position description might be, 6, 7, 8 pages, 10 pages long. And so what we do in addition to that is we ask the client to give to us the 6 or 7 or 8 key skills and attributes that would lead to success in the role. And we take those 6 or 7 skills and attributes and we write an interview script around those. And that interview script is going to allow us to grade out, just the way a football scout would grade a football player. We're going to grade a candidate based on how well they do on those 6 or 7 skills and attributes. It's really no different than how you would scout a player. We're very data driven with that. We try to break down the constituent parts of the job, grade them out. We have an algorithm that kind of adds it all up so that the client can see how we graded out all of the top candidates. Then we have a tech system where when the client interviews these candidates, they too can grade them on those skills and attributes, so that at the end of the day, we have a lot of data. It's a very data-driven process now. It's kind of Moneyball for talent recruiting. And we can all sit around a table and look at how we all graded people and determine what are the priority skills that they need to be graded high on. And if they're not graded high on those, then they're probably not going to get hired. That's the process. We do a lot of interviews. We do a lot of assessments. The interviews are assessments. We do data assessments, leadership assessments, personality assessments. Can people collaborate and work in teams? All that kind of stuff to see whether or not they're the right fit for any given job. We've put in 55 CEOs or presidents across the sports industry. There is no search firm that comes close to that number over the years of putting in 55, top executives. In the last year, we put in 2 commissioners. We put in the commissioner for the ACC. We put in the commissioner for the Pac-12. Those seem like the same job. They seem very similar. The boards are different. The schools are different. The coasts are different. And really the values of each of them are slightly different. So the searches turned out to be very different. One wound up in the ACC hiring Jimmy Phillips, who had come up through athletic administration, had a whole history in college sports. And the other in the Pac-12 came out in a very different place because they wound up hiring George Kliavkoff, who was in the betting space, was at BAM, at Major League Baseball. So he had a kind of a digital and tech background. He has a media background. He was an interim CEO of Hulu. And so 2 the searches that seemed like they should come to about the same result came to very different results. So it's a very interesting business.
Well, I mean, speaking of those 2 guys, now they're working together with this new alliance in the NCAA. Did they know each other? Do you know if they knew each other prior to that? Or did
I introduced them on text and put them together. I'm also just very, very close with Kevin Warren, who's the Big Ten commissioner. So just help to get them all together. We kind of work behind the scenes. One of the things we do at Turnkey is we don't want credit. We don't necessarily want to be out front on the things that we're working on. So a little bit behind the curtain is, we're making sure people know each other, are connected, are working together, and doing our best, to move the industry forward in ways that people often don't see. I'll give you a great example of that. Yesterday, I spent 4 hours judging the 30 under 30 for the sports business. We created the 30 under 30. We dreamed it up. We took it to Sports Business Journal. We said we should be doing 30 under 30, just like we're doing 40 under 40. And we brought the sponsors into it. We brought Anheuser-Busch. We brought MGM into it. And so now we do this judging. Nobody has to know that we're a judge. But for us as a search firm, we get all the resumes for 200 nominees for 30 under 30. We've been doing it year after year. We have a database of the best talent coming up in sports, in media, in tech. And so it's a great advantage for us, but it's also one of these things that we don't necessarily have to call a lot of attention to.
I was actually going to talk about the Sports Business Journal. I think that was one of their events was our first time we met. And, seeing you walk around those events, everyone wants to talk to you. Everyone knows you. What were some of the things that you did from a personal perspective, how you were able to really develop all the relationships across the sports industry over the years?
I mean, again, you nailed it. I mean, honestly, it's just a lot of hustle. I mean, just getting around and, being able to walk up to people and put your hand out and shake hands and introduce yourself. That's all I did for 25 years is to just try to meet people and build relationships and really understand who people are, not in a transactional way, not in a superficial way. It's got to be in an authentic way. And, I've tried my best to do that. Yes, at this point, everybody knows me, but there were a lot of years, Wayne, where nobody knew who the heck Turnkey was or who I was. And you have to persist through that. You have to push through that and just keep working your way up the business, really one step at a time. Not everybody likes me. That's the thing that you got to understand. Because when we do a search, one person gets hired, 50 people don't. And that can hurt. And so one of the things we really pay attention to is not just the person getting hired and waving the flag for them, but making sure we get back to the 50 people that weren't hired for the job and try our best to either give them some feedback or at least make sure they know where they stand in the process, so that they feel like they were dealt with fairly and that they were really considered. I think the other thing I would mention is we do things a little differently than the other search firms because I never worked at a real search firm. I never worked at one of the big search firms. I'm completely self-taught. So our business at Turnkey posts every job on our website. You can go to our website. Anybody in the industry can go to our website at any point, see a job board. And, we got 30 jobs up there right now in sports, big ones, good ones. The reason why we do that is we don't want to work in secret. We want to be as inclusive as we can so that people have a shot at these jobs. We take all comers. If you want to apply to be the president of the New York Football Club, you can come in and apply for this and we will look at your resume and we will consider you. And I think a lot of the other search firms out there work in secret, in quiet, and they exclude a lot of people and you don't get a shot at those jobs. So we're a search firm of kind of a different color and doing things a little bit differently.
Well, we certainly love doing things differently at 76 Capital. That's what we're all about. And we always love to, our thing is investing in these young entrepreneurs, a lot of people who have these crazy ideas, these things they're trying to create, these impossible companies, that no one ever thinks could be, possible. And we love to try to make possible, the impossible possible. So we love kind of the different kind of a thinking like that. And, I guess it's kind of, when we talk about the Pac-12 search with George Kliavkoff, right? I mean, he was a different kind of a candidate. I mean, certainly his background that you talked about earlier, coming in to be a commissioner of a collegiate league is different. But at the same time, when you start to look at the future and what the future of sports is going to be over the next several years and beyond, someone like George with his background is pretty interesting and could be, and hopefully for you and for him, he's the right guy for that job.
So far he is. I mean, the board is extremely happy with George to this point. You're right. One of the things we do as a search firm is not just manage candidate flow. We also actually manage the client. And when I say manage, it doesn't sound right, but in that case, in that search as an example, we try to coach the clients to be open-minded at the start and to be very inclusive and to think broadly about what the job is, but what the job is going to be 3 years and 5 years down the road. We had a wide range of candidates for the Pac-12. We had athletic directors and people who had come up in athletic administration, and they knew college sports backwards and forwards. And there were a lot of issues going on right now in college sports, and so those were good candidates. But we also had people from professional sports. We also had people from media. And then we had this just one person off to the side, George, who really didn't fit in any bucket neatly because he really wasn't from either college sports or pro sports or media. He was at a betting company, MGM. What do we do with this? We don't even want betting on our campuses. Are we sure we want to hire a guy that's coming from a betting space? But the reality was, when you dig into George and you understood his full background, he was an intercollegiate athlete in college and made a big impression on him. But he had worked his way up through, so he had worked at a league office at Major League Baseball. He had had a number of media jobs, at Hulu and other places, Discovery. So he had a deep media background. He also, at MGM, was one of the largest operators of live events. I mean, MGM has teams, it has buildings, so it was putting on all sorts of sporting events. So it wasn't correct to think of him as somebody who was just coming from a betting space. But it so happens he also did and led the push across 50 states. I think they're in 26 states now that they're approved for sports betting for their app. He understood the space. He understood the consumption of that and all the trends of it. And, once you put him together with the board, they could see that he was incredibly well-rounded and incredibly smart about seeing where the puck was going. And so that's why they picked him. And he came from not fitting into any bucket into being the commissioner of the Pac-12.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing story. And I guess, so maybe we should let's try to help our audience out right now, right? You said you have all these job postings that are out there. Maybe there's another George out there, someone that doesn't exactly fit, but maybe is the right person for a job. Talk about a couple of the searches that you have that are ongoing right now and the kinds of people that you're looking for.
Right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on our job board. I mean, I can't even think of a better place to work, a stronger brand, the Rooney family. A quick story, about 10 years ago when we still had Turnkey Intelligence, we were doing, kind of on the street interviews at all the NFL stadiums for the NFL for this program called Voice of the Fan. And so I got on a plane and I did it in Pittsburgh. And we would go to people who were tailgating and we'd ask people, what should the Rooney family do differently here at the Steelers? And the answer, we couldn't get anybody to say anything other than nothing. Tell them to do nothing differently. We love everything they're doing here in Pittsburgh. We love the Steelers. Don't change a thing. So it's a really strong brand. And, so we have jobs like that where we're looking for a head of marketing there. But think about it. If you're the head of marketing at a place like, I don't know, think of any big brand, Pepsi, and you have $1 billion budget, but then you come to the Steelers and you really don't have a marketing budget. You have to figure out how to market the Steelers essentially without a budget. And so we're looking for marketing people that can roll up their sleeves. They can be strategic, but they can also be tactical. They can also implement. They can work with marketing partners. These jobs are tougher than they seem. And so we have to really think about who's going to be a good fit to work inside what amounts to a family business. We just put in the chief marketing officer of the Kansas City Chiefs. And, there's a brand working for the Hunt family, very similar, but they got Patrick Mahomes, who's a worldwide brand now. And so they were looking for somebody who could take them way beyond Kansas City and create a worldwide brand for the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are the kinds of things that we're doing. We are looking for different candidates, and we are certainly looking for diverse candidates. And if you're a diverse candidate out there, come to our job board at TurnkeyZRG, because we've got opportunities for you in sports, entertainment, and media that are absolutely great jobs, and we are looking for you.
Certainly that's one of the big things here at 76 Capital, and diversity is important to us. I know it's important to you at TurnkeyZRG and the types of candidates that you're looking for. One of the great things that we were able to do together was you and Rick did a great search for us, actually two really great searches for us with our portfolio company C360 and bringing in their CEO and CFO. Maybe you can talk about a little bit about that process and just again and how important your team and guys like Rick are to you and as you build out your company.
Well, so ZRG has over 100 managing directors, and it's a global company. We have offices all around the world. TurnkeyZRG, as a part of that, is the practice group that does all of the sports, entertainment, and media stuff inside ZRG. And we have really about 15 people. So we're very small. We're not a big company, but we play a lot bigger than we are. Rick Alessandri is a great example. Before coming to Turnkey, he spent 26 years in media as a very top C-level person at ESPN for 20 years. And again, a top C-level person at Univision for another 6 or 7 years. So you're talking about 27 years of hands-on experience running all sorts of things like the X Games, licensing at ESPN, all sorts of productions. So Rick is a really well-rounded executive, and he knows the tech space, the media space. And so the C360 searches that we've done for CEO and CFO are just right up his alley. He has a great Rolodex for things like that. But as executive recruiters, Rick doesn't just call his friends. He just doesn't stick to his own Rolodex. The idea is to use that Rolodex in our database as the springboard to network, to find the right people. That's really what we're doing. So anybody out there that's thinking about being a talent recruiter, you need to be good at networking. You need to be good at connecting the dots. You need to be able to see 3 steps down on what a potential contact could do in terms of putting you in touch with other people. And Rick is relentless at that. He's really, really good. And all of our recruiters are. I'm mentioning Rick just as an example, but everybody that works at Turnkey, number one, has a lot of hands-on experience before they get to us. It's really important that you worked as a practitioner in this industry. I worked in ticket sales, sponsorship, marketing, media, licensing. All of those things that I did make me a more effective recruiter for those same positions now at Turnkey. And that's why Rick is so good, because he understands the space. He's a hands-on practitioner. He's hired people, fired people, mentored people, grown businesses. He knows how hard it is to do those things. And that makes him a great interviewer, questioner, evaluator of talent. He can pick and see who's going to fit. And so for C360, with Howard Wright, we got an absolute dynamite hire there.
Well, we agree. We think Howard's amazing. Thank you so much for making that connection for us. And that was just incredible. And so, one of the things you talked about earlier is that at Turnkey, you guys use a lot of data, use a lot of technology. I see Rick all the time on LinkedIn using social media. Talk about kind of the evolution from 25 years ago when you first got into the business to today, when the use of social media and posting things on the website and how that's really changed the overall executive search business for you.
When we really first started doing this, as I mentioned earlier, I had never worked at a real search firm, so we were completely self-taught. And we didn't, truth be told, right at the beginning, didn't even have a database. We couldn't even figure out how we're going to store all these resumes we got. We're putting them in folders. So, it goes from that to today where we have, really sophisticated technology behind us. The world's changed in general, but in the search space, we have an applicant tracking system. One of the reasons why we have a job board is, all the resumes that come through there, automatically get kind of sucked into a database that we have and get sorted and filtered in a way that we can then go back and find them. And then all the information that we record on somebody goes into their record. So we have certain people in our database where we might have 20 different resumes from them over time, updating resumes every year. But we can track them to the beginning of time. I mentioned 40 Under 40 with Sports Business Journal. We have resumes out there, from nominees of 40 under 40 going years and years and years ago. So we can track people over time, and it makes it easier for us to find them when we want to find them. The technology on the social side, it's really a promotional tool. Yes, any employer can post a job on LinkedIn, and we post our jobs on LinkedIn and can show them to the world. It's not really where you find your best candidates, but it is where you create a little buzz around a job. And the types of jobs we get are really amenable to something like that, because they're absolutely great jobs. Who wouldn't want to work for the Kansas City Chiefs or the Pittsburgh Steelers? And so we just create a little buzz around it, and it helps, I think, create the momentum around a search, where when we put calls out to the candidates we really want to talk to, they've heard about it already. They've thought about it. It's crossed their radar, and they're open to having a conversation with us.
Well, Len, I got to ask you one other thing. Has there ever been someone that you've placed in a job, and then you did it again with them in another situation? Have you ever placed someone in two different spots?
We have a couple that we placed in two different spots. We only have one person that we placed in three spots, which was quite a while ago. Actually, the very first placement we ever did was for a person to run ticket sales at the Houston Rockets. That was search number one in 1996. And so that person, Jeff Mirander, we wound up placing then at the NHL League office to start a team business services group like the NBA has. He sort of launched that at the NHL. And then later we placed him one more time at the Phoenix Coyotes. So we did place him three times. That's the only person that's done three. We did a couple two. Most people we only place once, to be honest with you. And we have somebody that we placed 22 years ago in an accounting position at the Sacramento Kings. His name is John Reinhardt, and today he's the president of the Sacramento Kings. He worked his way from the bottom to the top of that organization. It's one of our most successful and long-lasting placements.
Wow, that's amazing. What an amazing story. And let's wrap up with one last thing, Len. When you've had this awesome career, as you said, it's the best job out there in sports. When you look at what's happening now with sports, how things are really changing, whether that's around sports betting, as we touched on a little bit earlier, with NIL now, the name, image, and likeness situation that's going on from a collegiate perspective, the world of esports and gaming and how all this is happening. Where do you see things going over the next 2 to 3 years? What do you see that's kind of next in sports from your position?
I think it's a really good thing that student athletes, college athletes have a voice now and finally have, I think, the ability to make some money. It's been a long time coming. I hope we really do embrace it all across college sports and give them the opportunity to make some money the way any other college student gets a chance to make some money while they're in college. So I do like that very much. I think sports betting is here to stay and going to completely change the way people are consuming sports. That's a big deal. It's not only a lot of money on the sponsorship realm and on the betting realm, but the way people will watch a game, the way people will follow sports and consume sports now that this is going to be legal eventually in all 50 states is a complete game changer for our industry. And any team or league that doesn't get out ahead of that and stay ahead of that is going to lose. But anybody that's out ahead of it and really understands it and embraces it and leverages it is going to be a winner.
Well, we certainly believe that and believe what you're saying 100%. It's been amazing having you as a guest on our show. Len, thank you so much for your time. And again, if you are a team or a league and you need talent, Len is your guy. TurnkeyZRG, check him out. He is the chairman and CEO of that company, and it's been a pleasure having you on our show. So, Len, thank you so much for joining us.
Wayne, honored to be here. Thanks again. We love working with you guys and really honored to be on your show.
And of course, one last thing, you got to remember that, if you're an athlete or you're an entrepreneur, you're a student or you're a business person who wants to work in the sports industry or wants to start a company, reach out to us, reach out to Len. we can help you. That's what we're all about. We want to help. We want to connect. We want to make this industry better. So that's what we're all about. And please feel free to reach out to us however it is, whether that's on any sort of social media, whether that's via email, whether that's texting, or however you reach out to us or watch our shows. We want to figure out ways we can work with you to truly build this industry into something even more special than it is today. So once again, I'm Wayne Kimmel. Thanks for tuning into this edition of our 76 Capital Leadership Series with TurnkeyZRG's Chairman and CEO, Len Perna. Now just get out there and go make it happen. Thanks, everybody.